I wouldn't try to do that with standard Salesforce quoting. Um, that's a great tool for the basic stuff, but you mentioned ASC 606 compliance, and that immediately screams for CPQ. So if that's important, and I think it's becoming more and more important for everybody, then the ability to attribute revenue to different types of products, whether it's a product or a license or a service or maintenance or whatever it is critical. And that's when you get into this. When you start breaking it up into multiple products like that, to be able to identify that and be compliant, trying to do that in a standard, adding opportunities to opportunity products to an opportunity, or adding quotes to a quote, the interface is just challenging, and it just doesn't give you the flexibility you need. But I will say that is a good CPQ. I know that sounds a little self-serving, but it is kind of screaming for CPQ. As far as the pricing goes, that's one of the benefits of the tool, is there's a lot of flexibility for defining custom pricing. The standard models for pricing within Salesforce, you have the list pricing model, which says you identify a list price in your price book, and that is the price. That is the per unit price, if you will. You can use discount schedules to automatically assign the tiered pricing based on volume and on term. And then the second piece is block pricing. So block pricing is kind of like a phone plan or a storage plan, where it's up to X is $5,000, up to Y is $10,000, and it doesn't matter where you fall in between. It's $5,000 or it's $10,000, and so that's the block pricing. And the third standard model is called slab pricing, which is almost never used, although as a former sales manager and sales guy, it was one of my favorites. I think I've only used it a couple of times, and that's a tiered model of pricing that allows you to give volume discounts but not give away the farm up front, meaning you say 1 through 10 is $10 a piece, and 11 through 20 is $8 a piece. Instead of, if they come in and buy 20 units, they don't just get the $8 price, which is what you would get for list pricing. They would say the first 10 are at 10 and the second 10 are at 8. And those are the standard models. There's also percent of total pricing. So when you have maintenance that has a percent of total price, you can do that and determine what products on the quote should contribute to that percent of total. And you can have a minimum or a maximum amount on those as well. But your question about custom pricing for one, and customer or agreed upon or contracted pricing for another. Start with the custom pricing. As long as you're not using block pricing or slab pricing, which sort of take over your system, if we can figure out a way to deliver using the list pricing model, then there's this option within Salesforce to configure using price rules. And we can define criteria just like you would in Excel, basically, to say, if this, then inject this value, or go retrieve a value from a lookup table. Right? There's all kinds of things we can do to inject custom values as the price. And those contributing factors, those conditions, can be: who is the customer? Where is the customer? How long have they been a customer? What type of customer are they, right? We can, anything that you want to identify at the customer, at the opportunity, at the quote level, at the product level, to say, what conditions contribute to the calculation of the price. As I said, if you can do it in Excel, you can generally do it in Salesforce. Then you have the concept of customer contracted pricing. So if you have a negotiated price for a customer and you want that to be their price, you've agreed that this is their price, they get a better price than everybody else if they come back and add on more, or they when they renew. You can identify a customer contracted price for any product or group of products. It can be a fixed number to say this customer, instead of $10, pays $8, period, and when they come back and add more, the system will automatically look to say, does this customer have a contracted price in place? If so, that overrides everything else, okay? And so that's the first thing. Custom contracted prices can be a price, it can be a percentage discount off a specific product, or you can base it on say a family of products, a group of products. And so you can you can calculate customer prices, that customer contracting prices that way. You can also have an effective and an end date. So if you say, look, we're going to honor this price for up to 1 year or up to 2 years, that will be in place up until that expiration date happens, and any subsequent deal that they come back for, if they come back and do an amendment or a renewal, whatever it is, that will be honored up until that expiration date. So those are traditionally the ways that we would deal with that. There was one piece I left out. When you have a tiered pricing model, you have it, say, with quantity breaks, you can have a customer-specific set of tiers. So you have a discount schedule, but you can make them customizable so that customer gets, the tier 1 at $2 less and tier 2 at $3 less, or whatever it is, so that they can have their own discount schedule. And as long as that contracted price is in place, they'll be able to, we'll be honoring that. The last piece of your question was being able to look back and see what they paid at any given time. So obviously you always have the quotes and the opportunities in your system to look back on, but you have the subscriptions and assets as well that were generated from those. So when we close, win an op or contract an order, we create the contract, subscriptions, and any assets, the assets being any one-time deal. And those will have the pricing from that time, obviously, and you'll be able to look back and see what did they purchase, when did they purchase it, in what quantity, and what did they pay, what discretionary discount did we give them. All that information is stored.